Hi, welcome to Paint Talk, the weekly show where I sit, have a cup of coffee, and talk about oil painting. If you're new to the channel, then welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so you can get better faster. Today I'm going to talk about why you need to paint. A lot of you are probably like, oh, I didn't know I needed to paint. Well, you do. And the first reason that you need to paint is it can be very, very therapeutic. So what do I mean by therapeutic? I feel that sitting down and just focusing solely on one thing is very helpful. I feel like no matter what is going on in your life, when you sit down and paint, everything else kind of fades away. Any of your problems, responsibilities, what's going on in the news, all of that goes away because you have to focus. Like, you have to sit and focus on this one thing. And it's kind of weird to think about, how many times during the day in your day-to-day life do you have the opportunity to sit or stand and focus just on one thing? You're not sending an email or answering a text or reading something or watching something or talking to somebody or making food or doing this or doing that. You're just doing one thing. You're focusing on one thing and you have one goal, and that is to make this painting work. I feel that people underestimate the importance of that time to simplify what you're thinking about. For me, at least, no matter what's going on in my life, when I sit down and paint, it's just a way to get grounded, to tune out all the noise and really focus on something. Because I feel like the best way to not think about certain things is to just think about one thing. You can't really not think of something. If you tell somebody to not think of something, they're going to think about it. So it's best to divert your attention. And painting is a great way to divert your attention to something constructive, something that's going to build skills that you can utilize in other aspects of your life and create an end product that you can be proud of. Now, when I say therapeutic, that doesn't mean that every time you sit down and paint, it's just going to be really nice and effortless and you're going to have nice music playing. You're going to be smiling the whole time. It's going to go perfectly. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Painting is hard. It is very hard. And that's the great thing about it, is that there's always something that you can learn. There's always something that you can be striving to get better at and to understand. I feel that this is a very important thing to have in your life, to have some sort of never-ending pursuit to get better, because you will never reach the end of the road with painting. Like, you'll never feel like, oh, like, I've done it, I'm done, I've learned everything there is to know. That doesn't exist. It always gives you something to push yourself to get better. And it's great because with paintings, you have something at the end of the day, something physical that you can hold in your hands as a representation of your hard work. Not a lot of things have that. And there's a certain gratification that I think you get from that, to have a physical product of your hard work, and how much work you put into it is going to be shown on your canvas. It's going to be shown how much work you put into that individual painting. And over time, your paintings are going to get better and better, which is also a long-term representation of the work you've put in over the weeks, months, and years. And it's pretty cool because after a while, you're going to have this trail of paintings documenting your progress in your work. And you'll be able to look back at certain times in your painting progress and see where you were. And it's also really helpful a lot of times to look back at paintings you did a while ago and see how far you've come. It's pretty easy for us to forget how far we've come because you're always looking at what you want to do. You're looking at how you want to paint in the future and what you need to get better at and what you're not good at now, and you forget how far you've come. And a lot of times seeing how far you've come can invigorate you and inspire you to want to keep going, because you see, oh wow, like if I was able to, make this amount of progress, I can keep making that amount of progress. I'm going to be able to do things that I think I can't do right now. That is another great thing about painting, is that it will make you believe that you can do impossible things. I know that sounds crazy, but there'll be a time when you'll look at certain subjects, this definitely happened with me, and you'll be like, oh, like I can't ever see myself doing that. How could I ever do that? That seems impossible to be able to paint that, or paint that well, or paint like that. So what happens is that, you keep painting and time goes on and you get better and better. And before you know it, you look up and you're like, oh, I can paint that now. I forgot that, a while ago I thought that this was impossible, and now I can paint it. And it makes you realize that things that you think that are impossible to paint now, you will be able to get to that. because you know what it takes, because you've already achieved something that you thought was impossible. And that's going to translate into anything else that you do. Whenever you come up against a difficult task in life or something, that's hard or it's going to take time, you'll know that you can do it, that you can achieve things that seem impossible because you've done it with painting. You know the feeling of looking at something and thinking that it's impossible and then making it possible. That's a very empowering lesson that you can learn. Now, everybody relates painting with creative thought, and there's a lot of creative thought with painting, but there's also a lot of analytical thought and a lot of problem solving. So much of painting is analyzing your painting, identifying what's not working, where the problems are, and then solving those problems. For example, if you're trying to paint something and you have an object that needs to look like it's far away in the distance, and it's not looking like that, you need to go, okay, well, what do I know about making an object look like it's in the distance? I know that there's atmospheric perspective. I know that certain colors are going to drop out of that object as it gets further away. First, yellows are going to drop out, and then reds, and then blues. I also know that the contrast, the difference between the darks and the lights in that object are going to get closer together. Also, the color is going to get less saturated as it gets further away. So I can use just straight knowledge that I know to make my paintings better and to solve problems. And just the act of solving problems, of being able to look at something, identify a problem, and then come up with a solution, that is a skill in itself, and that's going to help you solve problems in other aspects of your life because you have practice at solving problems. Now, another thing is that painting, in my opinion, is the only true way to really capture an image. There was a point in time when if you wanted an image of something, if you wanted an image of a person, of a landscape, if you actually wanted to document what something looked like, you had to have someone come and paint it. There weren't cameras, there weren't video cameras. And even now that we have all these devices that can capture an image and really advanced cameras that can capture every single detail, I just really think that cameras are very inferior to what a painting captures. Because if you think about it, a photograph is an image filtered through a machine. It's filtered through a camera, whereas a painting, when you're painting from life, is an image or subject filtered through a person. And it's not just going to be better in terms of the human eye can see and capture colors better from life than looking at a photograph, but it's also the feeling that you have while painting your subject. No matter what you're painting, a landscape, a person, a figure, a still life, anything, you're going to be feeling something, not necessarily like feeling something about the subject, but you just as a person are going to be feeling a certain way while you're painting, and you're going to be taking in the visuals of what you're painting, and that's going to affect you in a certain way. And even if you're not conscious about it, it's going to come out in your painting one way or another. And I feel like there's a balancing act between developing the needed skill set to be able to capture what you're seeing and feeling. You can see a landscape and think it's absolutely beautiful and this and that, but if you don't have the adequate skills to capture that, it doesn't mean anything, because you're not going to be able to translate what it is you're seeing and feeling. I mean, think about it. How many times have you seen a landscape, whether it's a sunset, Grand Canyon, trees, mountains, whatever, and it's just like, wow, look at this, and you take a picture and you show someone later on, like, oh yeah, look at that. And you're like, no, like you don't, like you had to be there, you had to see it. That's what a painting can capture. A painting can capture a feeling. A lot of portrait painters will want to interact with the subject they're going to be painting, whether it's just talk to them, get to know what they're like, and pick things up about them that are unique to them that they can incorporate into a painting. If someone's always talking and they always put their hand on their chin, maybe you want to incorporate something like that. If it's a person that's, just always smiling when they're talking, maybe you actually do want to have them have a big smile in the portrait. I mean, think about somebody that you know really well and what would need to be in the portrait to capture them, that you'd be like, yeah, that's that, like, I know that person. That doesn't just look like that person, that feels like that person. It's interesting. I heard Martin Scorsese once say that, images today don't mean anything, that, with everybody having a camera in their pocket and screens everywhere, the value of an image has been lessened. And I think that's true. I mean, wasn't too long ago that the, only way to get an image was to actually put it on film, whether that was an actual motion picture or a still camera. So it was a lot more difficult to capture an image. Even with photography, you had to know how to light for film. You needed to know how to develop the film, how to process the film. And so an image was very valuable. And since it's so accessible now, that value is lost. And anybody with a phone can take a very high quality, in focus, well lit photograph. But I think painting is not affected by that. No matter how good cameras get or how common images get, a painting is something different. Whenever I'm out plein air painting, I always have a lot of people stop and look and go, wow, that's great. If I was just standing out there with a photograph, I don't think anybody would stop and look. And people still commission portraits. They can take a photo of that person if they really wanted a nice image of that person. They could take a nice image, go to a printing place, get it printed out, nicely framed, be a lot cheaper than commissioning a painting. But they want a painting because there's a human aspect to it. It's a human's interpretation of it. So I just feel it's very important to continue that tradition and that practice of capturing an image this way, because it will never get old. It will never lose its value or its uniqueness. I don't care if they come out with a robot that can paint a painting perfectly. It's just not ever going to be the same. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're looking to get better at oil painting, highly suggest my Foundations of Oil Painting course. I'll put a link to that in the description below. I also have full paint along video tutorials on my Patreon page, also linked in the description below. And if you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.